Heatman. What a fun, quirky character Heatman is. Welcome back to Road to Death Stranding, a series of short video essay type videos in which I discuss the lore and lore implications of the world and game of Death Stranding in anticipation for the release of the sequel. These are unscripted videos that are sort of off the top of the head, off the cuff discussions of characters. With me talking about who the characters are, their lore implications, and what my hopes are for them in the sequel. Heatman is I think, the funnest character in Death Stranding. You know, all of the characters who Sam interacts with heavily have unique quirks to them, really. You know, Mama and Lockney have their telepathic communication, with Mama being stuck between the world living and the dead. Deadman is a, weirdly stitched together person. Fragile has a version of Dooms that lets her teleport and a deeply interesting backstory. And Heatman, though, he's quite fun. So let's talk a little bit about Heatman's backstory and his unique form of Dooms. Heatman's story begins a number of years ago when what I believe is a terrorist attack, but I don't know if they ever directly state that it is, an event causes a void out. Before this void out, Heatman was undergoing heart surgery in a hospital due to a defect in his heart that gives it an unusual shape, resulting in it looking similar to a hand-drawn heart. Kojima being very silly and on the nose. While he was undergoing his surgery, a pair of twin void outs occurred, causing a large crater in the shape of a heart to form. Oh, the cheesy irony. This void out killed his family. Hang on, sorry, my music's fucking up. Okay, fixed it. This void out killed his family. And for a brief moment, it killed him as well, knocking out the power in the hospital, and he found himself on the same beach as all of those who died in the void out. This allowed him to confirm a fact that when large numbers of people die in the same place, they all go to the same beach, which is interesting, because that seems to contradict the previously stated personal beach lore that we've been given multiple times, which creates some interesting questions. But, the beach is still a misunderstood, contradictory location that I'm hoping through Heatman we learn a lot more about in the sequel, especially with the sequel being called On the Beach. But anyway, when his family died, he attempted to move on with them, to call out to them, but he was resuscitated. The hospital's backup generators turned on, and he was brought back to life, back from the brink. And this has led to an interesting mentality in Heatman. He thinks he's dead. He views himself as not alive, something that we have seen all over the place. Deadman feels that he's not truly alive, and Mama knew that she was stuck between the world of the living and the dead. And it seems as though Heatman views himself as being similar to Mama, that he is stuck between worlds, that he doesn't deserve to be alive. But he chooses to not move on yet. He wants to die, but he doesn't, because he wants to die with his family. See, Heatman's heart keeps giving out. Every 21 minutes, he enters cardiac arrest, and he slips into the other world, the beach, for 3 minutes before the device he wears on his chest brings him back to life, allowing him to straddle this world and the next. This leads to him... Why does my music not loop? I'm trying to loop the soundtrack in the background, but YouTube doesn't fucking loop videos for me for some reason. Ugh. Sorry. But yeah. Words. Hang on, give me a second. Trying to fix the issue. Okay. Hopefully that'll fix the issue that I'm having with the video not looping. Sorry. But yes, Deadman. Deadman has become because of his condition, has become the expert on the world of the beach, being one of the only people who can go to it, study it, and come back, outside of repatriates like Sam and Higgs, the only two repatriates we have recorded in the games. And his only goal is to find his family, and then go with them to the other side and fully die. Now, I'm of the belief that this is a futile effort, and it's in this that the tragedy of Heatman comes through, not in his endeavor to hunt them, but in the fact that I don't know if he ever will find his family. See, in the cutscene where we see his death, where we see him trying to get to the beach with his family, we see them entering the water. We see them beginning their journey to the other side, and when he calls out to them, they don't respond. He wants to find them because he's afraid that everybody goes to a different afterlife when they go through the water, but if they go through together, they'll end up in the same afterlife. And so, he hunts his family in the desperate hope that he can go to the same afterlife as them. But they've already moved on. There's no point in him searching the beach like he does. And I also think he's wrong. I think that if there is an afterlife on the beach, that his family is already waiting for him on the other side of the beach. Like, if there is something after you go in the water, they are already there, and that if he just goes through with them, he will end up, if he just goes through, he will end up with them, but he is holding himself back out of the fear that he won't. And that is the tragedy of him. That's the tragedy of Heatman. That he's forcing himself into this pointless Sisyphean task. Now, for my hopes with him, I personally feel that of all of the characters we interact with, outside of maybe Mama and Lockney, that he's the one we got woefully the least amount of interaction with. I desperately wish we talked with him more, that we got to deal with the stress of that 20-minute timer more often, that we got to just talk with him more often. And, like, it kills me that we don't, you know? He's such a fun character. He's so quirky and silly. His home is so fleshed out. I wish we had more moments where we had to talk with him and we had to sit and wait for 3 minutes and look around his home. And I hope that we get to experience that more. But more than that, I hope we see Heatman outside of his home. I hope we see Heatman in the field and that we have to deal with that stress. How cool would it be to get a mission where we need to transport him somewhere? And for 21 minutes, he'll be running alongside us, helping us with fighting the homo demons, trying to stay alive. And then he goes into cardiac arrest. So we have to pick him up, throw him on our back, and for 3 minutes, carry him and keep him safe before he wakes up and chops right back into combat with us. Or maybe we just are put in a scenario where we have to protect him for 3 minutes before he can wake up and run with us. Like, there's so many ways that I feel like they can play with his timer that the first game missed out on. That would be so fun, that I hope they elaborate on in the sequel, whatever happens with his character. I just hope we can talk with him more. And now I'd like to take a quick little trivia side note. Now, I'm going to talk you through my math to see if it's correct. He directly tells us that he has, when we first meet him, that he has been to the beach 218,549 times. Now, each one of those is a 24-minute cycle, which means it has been 5,245,176 hang on, sorry, let me re-say that. 5,245,176 minutes since the incident with his family. Now, that translates to, I believe, 87,419.6 hours. which would translate to 3,642.483 repeating days, which translates to 9.979 years, meaning it has been almost a decade since the events that made Heatman lose his family. He has been spending almost a decade, just shy of that, hunting his family in the beach. That is tragic. That is so sad. And I hope one of two things happens in Death Stranding 2 with Heatman. I hope that either he dies and moves on fully to the beach, to the other side. Or the alternative that I hope more of, he gets over it. He decides to live in the present, to not deal with this ceaseless Sisyphean hunt that he is on, that he fixes his heart fully, that he returns to the world of the living and chooses to live out the rest of his life properly with everybody around him, that he gets maybe a pacemaker installed so that he doesn't have to go through this harrowing experience of straddling both sides. And like I said, I hope that we might get some fun gameplay mechanics with him, and that we just get to interact with him more. I get to have more fun and talk with him. He is, I think, the funnest character of the main cast to talk with, and I want to talk with him more. I want to hear his crazy theories, and I hope we get moments where Sam just chills with him. No pressure of the time limit, no pressure of figuring out what we're doing, that Sam gets a moment of prolonged rest, of relaxing with Heatman. Now, I doubt we'll get that, because let's be real, that would be a really fucking boring cutscene. But even if we just get the implication that they spent time together like this, would be enough for me. But yeah, I feel like these are getting shorter and shorter as the characters get progressively less lore for us to talk about, but that's Heatman. I hope you're, again, I feel a little weird putting out videos this short when I'm used to putting out 20 to 30 minute videos, and I mean, in the case of Death Stranding, obscenely long videos, but these videos are, like I've said before, more than anything meant to bridge the gap leading into Death Stranding 2, a continuous flow of Death Stranding related content, as we get ready for the sequel. Oh yeah. Next episode, we're going to be talking about Die Heatman. So I hope you've all been enjoying this one, and I'll see all of you in the next video. Love you very, very much, and ta-ta for now. Also, I forgot to do this last time. To support me on Ko-fi, please. I need the money. Ooh. Goodbye.